Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Portland on the Move. The show interacts the Town Tech Educational Partnership, Portland High School, and the Portland Town Hall. This is our July show, and guess what happens in July in Portland? We have our annual fireworks display. We're proud to have the chairman of our fireworks committee, who has been the chairman for how many years now, Sharon?
Probably about 5.
5 years, Ms. Sharon Hoy, and Sharon has been the chairman for 5 years, maybe more. I think more, Sharon,
Could be.
as far as that goes. But as you know, we are going to be celebrating our 4th of July, okay, with our fireworks display. And because of lack of funding last year, we weren't able to have it, but we're having it this year. So welcome, Sharon. How are you?
I'm good.
Okay, and I see you brought your able-bodied assistant, Bo, with you.
Yes, I did. Bo was anxious to come along tonight.
Well, you know, he is definitely putting us in the spirit as far as that goes. And, you know, a little history on Bo. Bo is actually a registered therapy dog. Is that correct?
He is a registered therapy dog. He visits the Hartford Hospital to provide pet therapy, as well as the Portland Rehab.
Portland Care and Rehab?
Portland Care and Rehab.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right. Well, great. All right. So, you know, getting down to it, you know, obviously our fireworks display is this weekend, okay? Give us a little background, okay? Number one, why don't we usually have it on the 4th of July? And why are we having it on the 15th?
Well, the reason is because the grounds where we hold the fireworks is right along the river. And because it is along the river, we have a lot of birds nesting there, like the herons and the eagles. So DEP has sent us a letter and asked us if we would please delay the fireworks for approximately 2 weeks beyond the 4th of July to allow the little fledglings to leave their nests so that we don't chase them out early.
Uh-huh. Well,
and we want to be good citizens, so we abide by it.
and good neighbors. So, and obviously the 15th is roughly about that 2 weeks. So now, in just putting things into perspective, now that doesn't, when Middletown does their fireworks, that doesn't affect the birds in the island there. Is that how that works? Or?
Evidently not. I haven't heard that they've gotten any requests to delay theirs.
Okay.
But our nesting, there's a lot of trees right along the river where we are, and
right.
and that's where the eagles like to nest.
Okay. All right. Well, fair enough. We want to be good citizens and so forth. So again, the fireworks display is as it always has been located at the Exchange Club Fairgrounds, which is basically right on Route 17A and so forth. So tell us what's going to go on.
Well, we're going to start off, the gates will open at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
You don't need to bring your food along because there will be food vendors there. The Exchange Club has their shack where they offer hamburgers and hot dogs.
Food booth, yeah.
We're going to have ice cream, and Rosita's are going to be there selling their food. So a lot of good refreshments. Mm-hmm. We're going to have a concert starting around 6:30, mm-hmm. and that will be the Great Hill Mountain Band.
Okay.
Very popular band in this area,
and
they're great.
Voice. Yes,
yeah,
the Gilmets, you know.
They really do a nice job, and we're pleased to have them. And then we're going to have a raffle. We have a lot of 10 great prizes this year. The tickets are $5 a piece, and they'll be sold at the site. Mm-hmm. We'll also be running a 50-50 raffle there.
Okay.
And there'll be one winner. The regular raffle, you don't have to be present to win. So
okay.
if you buy a ticket and you can't be there for the end, we'll contact you if you're
okay.
a winner and get that gift to you. The 50-50 raffle, you do have to be present to win.
Okay. All right, that's fair enough.
And then we also have a salute to the troops. That's important. We love our vets. And then we finish off at 9:30. The regular fireworks show blasts off.
Okay, all right. And I want to make mention too. The the Great Hill Mountain Band. They graciously donate their time.
Yes, they do.
To come down. So we do appreciate Luke and the boys and to donate their time to make the fireworks display a festive event. That really is great of them. So the other thing too, as far as the raffle prizes, would you mind if I read those off?
No,
okay.
please do.
Well, the raffle prizes. The first prize for the raffle prizes, and this is the raffle that you do not have to be present for, are 10 passes redeemable at the Brownstone Exploration and Discovery Park. Okay, which, as you know, they have zip lines, they've added trampolines, they've rock climbing, wakeboarding, scuba diving, kayaking, water slides, and obviously swimming. It's a great time down there. If you've never been to the Brownstone Exploration and Discovery Park, it is definitely a destination. I think last year we've had in excess of 80,000 visitors, okay, that visited the Discovery Park. So that's quite a nice prize, 10 redeemable passes. Normally, from a standpoint of if you wanted to go in there and their passes, I think, normally start at like $28 a piece.
I think you're right.
Okay, so 10 passes, that's a great prize. The second prize, okay, is for those music enthusiasts, we have the Yamaha Gig Maker guitar package. And that's donated by me, okay, and Connecticut Valley School of Music and Dance, and that is roughly a $300 value, which includes a guitar, an amplifier, a gig bag, tuner, cord, everything you need to get started to play guitar. And it is a Strat-style guitar. It's a solid body and a great package. Third prize is greens fees for 4 for 18 holes, including the use of carts, and that's redeemable at Quarry Ridge Golf Course, okay? There are some restrictions that apply, so make sure you call ahead, okay, if you do win that one. But Quarry Ridge, that's the one on top past the Portland Golf Club. Fourth prize is a 32-inch LED smart TV, okay? And fifth prize is 50 gallons of number 2 fuel oil donated by Daniels Energy. And there are some restrictions that apply with that. So if you do win that, make sure you call ahead and when you're scheduling a delivery. The sixth prize is a gift certificate for car detailing service redeemable at On the Spot Detailing. And if you don't know where that is right at the Four Corners, just up the road from the Exchange Club Fairgrounds, okay? And they do a great job. Seventh prize is 6 gold car wash services redeemable at Clean Image Car Wash. Now, Clean Image, that is over in...
That's on 66, right across from, right along the automotive...
Is that in
Portland Automotive, yeah, on 66 in Portland.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, yes, right on the corner of Picnic Street. Duh, all right. I didn't know the name of it. Duh. All I know is a car wash, okay, and that's great. So to keep your car clean, that's 6 gold car washes, okay? That includes the wash, the wax, the whole 9 yards. That's the underside. Eighth prize is a $50 gift certificate redeemables at Sarah's on Main. And if you've never had breakfast on Sarah's on Main, they have some awesome food for breakfast. They also have Thursday night specials, though. So if you like to come out on Thursday night and go to dinner, they're a great place to go. Very friendly and very quaint ambiance there, so some great food. And ninth prize is an Amazon TV Fire Stick, okay? And for those of you who haven't cut the cable yet, okay, the Amazon Fire Sticks, they're about a $70 value, okay, and they work great. The 10th prize is 4 tickets to the 2017 Portland Agricultural Fair. Now, that's going to be this Labor Day weekend, which is...
No, it's in October, the second week in October.
Columbus Day weekend.
I believe it's 10th, 11th, and 12th this year.
I believe you're right, the 10th, 11th, and 12th. So that's 4 tickets to that. So that's some great prizes. And again, all of the tickets are $5 a piece, and the winners need not be present. And we're going to be pulling that, okay, roughly at 9 o'clock, just prior to the kickoff of the fireworks display. So anyway, so I realize we've had some trials and tribulations. Obviously, last year we were a little short on funding, so we opted to. Plus, last year I think we kind of ran into the same thing with this year. We had a wet spring, so the fairgrounds. So how are we dealing with that?
Well, the rain is still coming down periodically, and so that makes for a little more wet on the fairgrounds. But the problem was that the grass has not been is about 3.5 feet high, and because it was so wet, it couldn't be mowed.
Okay.
So when we got it mowed, it's starting to dry out now, but the result is that we're limited with parking.
Okay.
So we have been making that known that there is limited parking. So come early and get your spot. It's going to be handled on a first come, first served basis.
Okay.
And the general parking will be closed at 9 p.m.
Okay.
And also there is handicap parking. So if you need handicap parking, it's available.
Okay, that's great. That's great. So yeah, it has been. I think Alan Clark, who mows it, really had a tough time getting in there and mowing it. As a result, could only mow probably about half of what
Right.
is available. As far as that goes. So sure. Yeah, and the thing is that people, there are places to watch the fireworks. Obviously, you can watch the fireworks from the Rose Hill Ball Field. That's a great
Right.
place to watch. But there's parking at up by the town garage that can be had there. The Grange is available, I think, for parking. So anyway, but that'd be great. Tell us a little bit about the history. How was the fireworks organized initially?
Well, originally they were supported by the police, and Mr. Dapkus, who was one of our policemen, he
Sergeant,
did
yeah.
he did the show before us, and then when he retired, he wanted to be retired from the fireworks as well. So there was an article in the River East asking for volunteers, and it's interesting because the committee that we now have is pretty much the same people that volunteered that first night.
Wow.
So we have a small committee. It's about 10 people strong.
Yeah.
We're small, but we're mighty. Each person has expertise in a particular area, and they just do a great job. However, I will say that we can always stand to have more volunteers. We're looking for more people to help us out.
Absolutely. Well,
it's a big endeavor. There's a lot of detailing, and it's not just collecting money and putting on a show. There's a lot of coordination and work that goes into it.
Sure. The organization, again, making the grounds ready. I mean, obviously you have to make arrangements for portalets, the food vendors, coordination with all the prizes and so forth, the parking, as well as working with all of the vendors, and soliciting the donations. Most of all of the donations are it's funded by private donations. I think the town gave a little bit this year, as well as they gave some to the fair and to the fireworks.
They did, and we're very appreciative of that.
And our first selectwoman, Susan, is going to be on the second segment of the show. Okay, so it's. And I know you guys do a lot of fundraising throughout the year, so tell us a little bit about some of the fundraising you do. I know you used to do bake sales and whatever.
Originally, we didn't have fundraisers, and then we found that we really needed something to supplement the donations. So we started to do bake sales, and that's been quite popular. We usually hold them in front of Tri-Town Foods, usually on the holiday weekend, and that's been a lot of fun, and we meet a lot of nice people there. Then we expanded, and we started to sell hot dogs and drinks at the townwide tag sale, which is the second week in May.
Yeah.
And we have repeat customers every year because they like our hot dogs the best.
All right. Nothing wrong with that.
And then as we move into the fall, we set up at the Portland Fair, and we sell slices of Goddess pies. I don't know whether you folks have tried Goddess pies, but they're fantastic.
Delicious. Oh my God! Talk about the closest thing to homemade that you're never going to
run
across.
Yeah, they are really good, and God is so great to the fireworks. They really help us out tremendously. Then as we moved into the fall, we had the Downton Abbey tea, and that was the first time we did a tea, and it was quite successful. So successful, in fact, that we ended up doing a Victorian tea in December.
Nice.
So that's some of the fundraisers, and then we had a new one this year, which was probably the best fundraiser that we've had regarding the amount of donations that it brought in, and that was a fashion show.
Yes.
And that was done in March, and Jill Dean headed that up, and she has a lot of prom gowns that she lends out to the teenagers that need a prom dress.
Sure.
And and she also used the girls as the models.
Nice.
And it was a lot of fun.
Sure. No, I know. I was there and donated the runway for them to come out and strut their stuff. And it was very well done and very, very nicely received. And the auditorium was pretty much 3/4 full. So which was that was up at the Portland High School.
It was, and it was a very windy and cold night.
Yeah, yeah, it exactly was. So so with the funds you have, do you have enough money now this year?
We're a few $1,000s short. What we did, we had a donation campaign in 2016, and that's when we had to cancel the fireworks because we just didn't have enough that felt that we could go ahead with it. We knew we weren't going to meet our goal. So we kept those, and with the 2016 donations combined with the 2017 donations, we're just, at this point, we're just a couple $1,000s short. But we're going ahead in good faith, believing that with the raffles, and we'll be collecting that night, and any donations that might come in after the fact, we think that we'll have enough to pay for the show and all of the expenses as well.
Well, that's good, and we're going to put that up on the screen now. Any donations for the fireworks can be accepted. Okay, at the Portland Police Department, you can mail your donations to them. Roseanne will down there, and it's on your screen right now at 265 Main Street. And we'll gladly accept your donations as far as that goes. But when you talk about again coordinating all of this huge endeavor and making that all happen, it takes a village, and it's amazing that the committee that you have, which is basically around 10 people. Okay, it makes this all happen, and we commend you on that as far as that goes.
And Dave, I would like to compliment the Portland Fire Department as well as the Portland Police. Safety is the #1 thing when it comes to putting on a show like this, and I don't think they get enough thanks, and they really do a phenomenal job. They keep it seamless, and we really appreciate their efforts.
Well, Chief Bob Shea and Lieutenant Ron Millardo are, big advocates of safety and preparation, and so I know we had a meeting last week with Susan and scheduling where I believe because of the lack of parking, we're ordering some more light towers to make the walking up along 17A a lot safer. So getting back to the fireworks, there's a reason that you brought Bo tonight. So tell us.
Well, we love to see your dogs. I'm a dog lover myself, as you can tell, and I like to take Bo with me wherever I go. However, I will not take Bo to the Portland fireworks or to any other firework display. And the reason is because a dog's ears are much more sensitive to ours.
He knows.
Yeah, he's going to hide already. And the sound of the blast going off really can hurt their ears and do damage to them as well as scare them.
Sure.
So, like I said, we love to see your pooches, but this is a night when we'd like you to leave Poochie at home.
Yeah, absolutely. And, again, fireworks, especially with the ordinances that they are going to be shooting off. Now, going back to the fireworks now, I believe after Mike Dapkus left, John Ruggiero, from Ocean State?
Ocean State Pyrotechnics.
Okay, he is the company that has been shooting it since Mike retired and does a phenomenal job. So they're going to have some 8-inch shells, and the 8-inch shells are pretty big, okay? And when they go off, it's quite a concussive explosion, and again, those explosions and so forth are affect the dogs because they're hypersensitive, and they really do. See, right, Bo? So that's great. So look, now as far as the timing, the fairgrounds, you say are going to be opening at
5 o'clock.
At 5 o'clock. Okay, so people can come in and set up their chairs and
right. As a matter of fact, people go down there in the morning and they
stake out their spot.
They stake out their spot. They have their favorites. However, I will say that there's not a bad seat in the whole place.
No, you're right there. Everything's right up above you. Now, as far as the entertainment, now the Great Hill Mountain Band is going to be playing. What time are they going to be going on?
They're going to go on around 6:30.
Around 6:30, and they're going to play till about 8:30 or so.
Probably 8:30, 8:45, and then we'll have the last call for the tickets for the raffles. We'll pull the winners And then I also should say, when we didn't address this, there will be novelties sold that night.
Oh, okay.
We always have our light up features, the glow necklaces,
sticks, the sunglasses,
and we have a couple special things that we haven't had before.
New stuff.
New stuff. We've got some new stuff.
New stuff. All right, excellent. And as far as the, you also are you going to be doing the raffle that we normally do for the person that starts the fireworks?
Yes, I have the person's name from 2 years ago.
Okay.
And we're hoping that she'll be there, and she will draw the winner to start the fireworks this year.
So basically, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, they're also going to be pulling a drawing, which is free, okay, for any child that would like to participate and put their name in the drum to be pulled out to be the one that pushes the button that starts off that phenomenal pyrotechnic display. You could be that one, okay? And it's very exciting when you sit there and hit the button and count down from 10 and hit the button, and then boom, everything starts happening. So that's phenomenal. So great. All right. We're going to bring Miss Bransfield on in just a minute. We're going to take a little break, and we're going to go back and show you just a little bit of the, as you know, last year was the Portland's 175th anniversary. We did a documentary film. We're going to play you a little of that while we're kind of changing out the set and bringing on Mrs. B. So we'll be right back here at Portland on the Move.
History gives you a sense of place. It helps ground you when you visit other places and you see what they have or what they don't have. That's the thing that really sets us apart. As you walk through the town, it can tell you a story if you know what to look for.
Brownstone starts about 200 million years ago, during a period known as the Jurassic. So Portland has its own Jurassic Park, which is very exciting. All of the continents that we know of today combined into one big, huge continent. And there's an area in the Middlesex Quarry that is pretty unified, and scientists now think that that was deposited by wind, and they call that an aeolian deposit. And if you know anything about Death Valley and the sand dunes there, you can think of it as that was what Connecticut looked like 200 million years ago. And during that time, this is the rise of dinosaurs. Large trackways were discovered, and quarry workers would take them home and use them in their sidewalks.
There were Native Americans, the Wangunk Indians, lived in this particular area. The first house is right on the corner of Indian Hill Avenue right now. It's a small center chimney cape. It's believed that it was built there while it was still an Indian reservation. The legend is that Mr. Bates, who built the house, also had a still, and he thought that put him in good stead with the Indians, that they said if he would make them moonshine, then he could build his house there. The area we now know as Portland was first East Middletown, then it became the East Parish of Middletown when a church was established here. Eventually East Middletown incorporated as Chatham, which encompassed present-day Portland and East Hampton, and then in 1841 Portland itself became independent. For a very brief period of several days we were known as Conway. And then before the state legislature adjourned, the name was officially incorporated as Portland.
Some people think that Portland got its name from Portland, England, because that was a big stone area. James Stancliffe was a stone cutter from England who came here and must have done a great deal of work for the settlers, because he was rewarded in around 1680 with land on this side of the river to use for quarrying purposes. He became a very well-known stone carver and created some of the most distinctive gravestones in the valley. The stone was in big piles at the base of this gigantic cliff of sandstone. So you can think of it as the Monument Valley of New England, where you have large cliff structures of sandstone with eroded piles of stone at the base. So they took the easiest stuff first.
We have a street in town called Freestone Avenue. Freestone referred to the brownstone. Again, it was sedimentary, and it was in layers, and frost heaves would separate the upper layers by them just through natural processes. So it required very little work to separate slabs of stone, and that was called freestone because it was naturally free.
So they would row over there, load the loose stone in boats, and row back, and then use it for building material. The quarry's heyday was probably between 1870 and about 1890. Approximately 10 million cubic yards of stone were removed from the three quarries. About half of it was thrown away as waste. So as they're quarrying and they're throwing the waste stone over the bank and they're quarrying toward Main Street, you see the shoreline going out into the river. So the original shoreline for the river was probably somewhere where Brownstone Avenue is now. New York had several big fires, and they passed an ordinance restricting all construction to be either brick or stone. And the Portland brownstone quarries were well established. They had easy access to transportation, and they had a ready labor force, so they became the go-to place for stone. And all along the wharves were derricks to load the stone onto what was referred to as a stone boat or a brownstone schooner. And they would be towed down the river. And when they got to Long Island Sound, they would set sail and they would head off to New York. Because of the need for so many boats, that kept the boat building industry in Portland going well into the 20th century, whereas all of the other shipbuilding operations on the Connecticut River had closed long ago.
Obadiah Gildersleeve came with his family to Portland during the Revolutionary War. He started shipbuilding at the end of Indian Hill Avenue, which was Shipyard Lane in those days, in the late 1700s. And then his son Philip took over, and he built ships at the end of Indian Hill Avenue. And then his son Sylvester started building ships and bought out other shipyards in the area and incorporated them all into his own. They did brownstone, but that was maybe half the business. They were in the coastal trade and going up and down the East Coast with everything from lumber to coal, and just all merchandise in those days traveled by ship. It probably took about 6 months to build one vessel, and they built up to 4 a year, which was pretty amazing. It took a lot of lumber to build one vessel, let alone 4. Just hauling all that in by ox teams and bringing it down the river was an enormous job. The vessels ran generally from about 300 tons to up over 1,000 tons. In length, some of the schooners were probably in the 50, 60-foot range, and then up to 120 feet or so for the larger vessels. Some, when they were launched into the river here, some went around the world, and some, the ferry boats, went as far as Middletown and back. Gildersleeve then was pretty much a self-sufficient area. All the houses on Indian Hill Avenue, many of, or most of those were worker houses. They were built by the carpenters that were working on the ships. You could buy virtually anything in Gildersleeve's store. It's amazing for the size of the building, what they carried. The economy was certainly booming.
By the turn of the 20th century, changes were beginning to be made in architecture and construction. The development of the steel frame that allowed for the construction of skyscrapers came into being, and people got tired of brown. It had been all the rage for decades into the, part of the Romantic period, that brown and being with nature, that was the great thing. And people just decided they'd been brown long enough. The quarries closed down for the war effort, and the men went to work in war industries, and that was pretty much the end of the Portland brownstone industry. There was some quarrying done after the war, not very much. And traditionally, it is felt that quarrying ended with the great floods of 1936 and 1938. But the first aerial survey of Connecticut done in 1934 shows the quarry pits full of water. So by then, there wasn't any quarrying being done.
Portland, like most communities, has significant people in its past. One of the ways to find out some of the big names in Portland is you could just start by looking on a map. There are sections of Portland that are named after families. There's the Gildersleeve section, which is named after the shipyards. There's Penfield, the Penfield Hill District, which was a school district in town. The Penfields were a farming family out in the hills of Portland. You can drive around the streets of Portland and look at the names of streets. There's Ames Hollow Road, that's named after the Ames farm that was there. There's Strickland Street, which was named for the Strickland family that originally had a feldspar quarry, which is now a golf course. There was also an egg farm in town run by the Strickland family. The biggest structure ever built in town, actually it's half in town, is the Aragoni Bridge that crosses to Middletown. On the plaque there, a name that's always stuck out for me is John C. Barry. There was a lumber company in town run by Asaph Hale and Mr. Strong. Mr. Hale went to the school and said, I need a student who's good with numbers. And they said, oh, well, we've got somebody for you. John Barry's good with numbers. So he was pulled out of 8th grade, and as far as I know, that was the end of his formal education. 20 years later, he was the owner of the lumber company down by the river. At the time, it would have been a prominent location on Main Street because the old highway bridge would have crossed the river there. And there's a big wall down by the river that says, come on over. That was painted by John C. Barry. Growing up, there used to be we used to have Memorial Day parades in town, and there was always a car on the parade. It looked like a Model A or a Model T that had a house built on it, and it always looked kind of strange. And come to find out later on, that car was owned by John C. Barry.
I saw this car in John and Bob's gas station when I was 10 years old. My grandmother was taking us to lunch at the Brownstone restaurant, and I saw the car for the first time, and I fell in love with it. And years later, I followed it through here in Portland, where it stayed with John and Bob's. I often see it at their gas station as they move down the street. And then when they liquidated their complete assets of the garage and the gas station and stuff, this vehicle came up for sale. Unfortunately, I was away at that time, and Mr. Ed Organic ended up buying it at that auction. And we're lucky it stayed in Portland. And so one of the things, as I tried to buy it from Mr. Organic is I made him the promise that it would stay here in Portland. And that meant a lot to him. He liked Portland, he had his business here, and later moved his home here. So this vehicle was made in 1920, and my understanding is 7 of them were made and went to all different parts of the country. It is also my understanding that this is the only one that remains today. The history as I know it is that Ford were building homes as kits. They had a piece of property in northern Michigan called Iron Mountain, where they had cut all the lumber for their station wagon cars. They decided that they'd go into the house building business, sort of like Sears, where you'd buy a kit. Strong and Hale Lumber was one of the dealers for Ford houses in the Northeast. And as a promotional tool, they decided to build, on a Model T chassis, a little house. It's gone through the flood, where it was damaged quite severely and then rebuilt and restored. So I feel very lucky to have this piece of Portland history, and until I die, it'll stay in this town.
Oscar Hedström was a Swedish immigrant who came into this country in 1880 with his parents. He was born in 1871, and he changed the force of motorcycles. He was an original pioneer. Also, he was a Portland resident. Before Indian came along, most bikes were just that. They were bicycles, and you had to pedal them. So his claim to fame is that he got an engine that was dependable. First bike was 98 pounds, produced a little over 2 horsepower, but it took off, and they started being used so they could be used more practical. And then, of course, later on, they started getting competition from automobiles. But before that, this was like a direct replacement to the horse. Oscar started building the motorcycle in 1901, and then they made 143 in 1902, and they were deluged with orders. They couldn't keep up with them all. The first Indian motorcycle patents, they all said Portland, Connecticut. Oscar Hedström came up with the name Indian. He did it out of tribute and respect for the original pioneers of America. The property that Oscar Hedström once lived on was a meeting house reservation of the Wangonk Indians. So we don't know if there's any connection there through history, but there just may be.
My family moved to Connecticut in 1963 to
On the
pick it up.
move, and this is
my
our
husband
July
and I-
show, and Ms. Sharon Hoy was our first segment, which highlighted a lot of the what's going to happen this weekend with our Portland fireworks display. And just joining us for our second segment is our first selectman, Ms. Susan Bransfield. Hi, Susan. Thanks for coming
Hi, Dave.
out.
Good to be here. Thanks
Great.
for having me.
Oh, thanks for, I know you rushed over after work. You had some meetings to get through. You were getting here, so appreciate
great
you
to be
taking
here.
time. So
Thank you.
anyway, before we get to you, Susan,
Yep.
Sharon, we got one thing we didn't discuss, okay? In the, we know the weather forecast is supposed to be great, but the rain date is going to be Sunday for the
The rain
fireworks?
date is going to be Sunday.
Okay, that's cleared up, but it's not going to rain. We know that.
It is not going to rain.
gonna be high.
I've talked to Mother Nature, and she's going to shine some nice sunshine on us.
There we go. There we go. Anyway, welcome, Susan. So we have a lot of issues, and a lot on the plate here in the town of Portland. So
Sure, we do.
Where do you want to start? Well, I think the thing that's on everybody's mind, okay, throughout not only in this town but throughout the state is the state budget.
Sure.
So when you looked in your crystal ball this morning, what did you see?
Well, I know that the legislature is going to try to look at getting a budget soon. I know next week they're going to be meeting again. Perhaps they'll be able to all get together, the Senate Republicans, the Senate Democrats, the House Republicans, and the House Democrats. They all have ideas, and they're all good.
Yeah.
They just got to put them together and come out with one budget that the governor will proceed with, and then we can start putting the state back on track. And it's a very, very important year. It's a very serious situation. It's something that for selectmen, mayors, town managers, we're really keeping a very close eye on how things are proceeding at the state level. And each of us has our own budgets that we have passed, which Portland has done. And the tax bills went out on schedule at the beginning of July. And I've seen many, many people lining up, paying their taxes and doing their civic duty. It's not easy to pay your taxes, but it is something that we need to proceed with to run our towns. I heard Sharon speaking earlier about how important public safety is in our towns, as well as making sure that all of the various departments operate, and that there is some consistency and some predictability. And the difficulty with state budget not being passed means a lot of entities, not just cities and towns, but the state offices themselves, many nonprofit groups that help disabled people, help less fortunate people, and perform a lot of the duties that are necessary for various groups don't know what will happen in terms of the state budget. We hope things will proceed in our favor, but we're prepared and we're watching, and as I said, we're hoping for the best and making sure that we'll make very prudent decisions in terms of expenditures.
Well, I think from the state side, I think the state is under executive order from the governor.
That's right.
You know, basically, they're running it week by week here.
And it's not the first time this has happened. It's happened before in the past. Hopefully, as I said a few minutes ago, we get the state back on the right track so that we're able to contain expenses and be in balance with revenues and what the appetite is as far as taxpayers go. The one thing that I am concerned with, as are many people, is that Connecticut remain competitive and attractive to other businesses throughout our state, as well as attracting new businesses, making sure that our young people stay in Connecticut, or if they've gone away for a while, that they come back to good jobs, they come back to being able to buy a house, raise their children, and engage again in Connecticut. We have a beautiful state, and we just need to make sure that we get things in order.
Yeah, and I think in lieu of some, you know, the past events with GE moving to Boston and now Aetna, you know, I think, you know, basically the bottom line is that the state is like, it's just cannibalizing its own tax base and kind of shooting themselves in the foot. So we got to turn that around a little bit.
Just like any entity, you have to constantly be looking at how you're doing business. We need to have effective revenue collection. We need to have diversification of revenue. We need to contain costs. And as far as towns and cities are concerned, we want to, whenever it's appropriate, share services.
Sure.
And make sure that we're not reinventing things, that we're sharing and doing things in a cost-effective way.
And I know we did that this year. I think you did that with some of our leasing program, and you can talk a little about that. I think we purchased some equipment in conjunction with Cromwell, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. There was a special program that the state encouraged us to follow, and it was buying equipment that we don't use every day. Cromwell doesn't use every day, but there are things that we can share. And by getting a small grant and putting money in from the city of Cromwell as well as the town of Portland, we're able to buy some equipment and share the care and upkeep and the utilization of those entities.
Yeah, because I think we acquired a bulldozer and a crack sealer.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, so that's great.
And some TV equipment for our sewer and things of that nature, so we can take a look at what's under the ground. Those aren't things that we use every day, but it's things that we do need. And if we can share those expenses, it's a win-win for everybody.
Sure. So, you know, getting back to the budget, before we go on to, you know, other topics here, what are our town's options as far as in relation? I think the taxpayers are always interested. I mean, when we discussed in the selectmen's meetings and so forth, because a lot of, I know East Hampton delayed their budget and hoping that, you know, the state would come up with something, and that they had to put something together. So as our options, you know, as far as in relation to, you know, supplemental tax bill or whatever?
Well, what Portland did was we followed the law, and we have local rules as established in our charter, and then of course there's state rules as well. And we followed everything to the best of our abilities. We passed our budget on the first referendum. We were able to set the mill rate based on what we predict, what the governor had told us where our revenues would be. And we also sent out not just the tax bills for houses and personal property taxes and commercial taxes, but also the motor vehicle tax bills went out. The state law says you can't charge more than 32 mills for vehicles. And we anticipate they're going to raise that cap, but at this point they haven't. So we sent out for our motor vehicles a mill rate of 32 and the mill rate of 32.98 for real estate and personal property.
So, okay. So, well, that's our options, you know, as far as that goes. So, we've got a lot on our plate as far as other exciting
yes, we do.
Initiatives that are happening around town. So, where do you want to? You want to start with the airline trail?
Yeah, that's a pretty exciting endeavor that it's grassroots. It's people that have gotten together and said we want to have more hiking and ability to use the old railroad bed that's in Portland. It's been abandoned. There's no longer any rails there. And we were able to acquire a grant a couple of years ago that we've just gotten the bids today for the regrading of the trail. And what that means is the bids came in, well, first of all, the bids came in very favorable. We're under what we predicted we would need to have. And they'll put in, I think it's 6 inches of gravel and then 2 inches of stone dust on top of that on this 2.3 mile trail that starts at about where Butler Construction, the Phelps Ingersoll camp is, and then it goes east, and we meet in East Hampton at Depot Hill Road with the airline trail that's already being redone there. And then you'll be able to continue essentially all the way up to Willimantic and further north as well.
Wow, fantastic. So that's great news.
It is.
I know people
it's very exciting news.
use that trail a lot, not only for mountain biking, but walking and sort of hiking.
Horseback riding as well is
Sure.
allowed, and it's going to be a great attraction for Portland because it means people will come to our town, utilize the businesses, enjoy really the beautiful nature that we have in Portland, and we welcome people to come. We hope it'll be completed by the end of the calendar year, and just in time for spring, and also some winter
Nice.
hiking as well.
Nice. Keeping on the park theme, okay,
Yeah.
what's happening with our new recreation park?
The Route 17 committee is busy working, and they're working with Weston and Sampson, which is the engineering company. They'll be coming out with the bid documents, we hope, by October. And we hope that we will be able to proceed with breaking ground in the spring. We're working very carefully with the financing to make sure that it is in keeping with our plan. And we won't be issuing bonds until after we know what the cost would be for that. So that takes each step as it comes, and that too will involve a lot of great attractions for people in our town.
Sure. And keeping with parks, obviously, tonight is the first concert of our summer concert series
Yeah, at the Riverfront Park.
at the Riverfront Park. And I think when we got here, I think we were dodging the rain, so which is
we
good.
weren't too sure. But the forecast is for good weather tonight, so Michael Cleary Band is there tonight. And I hope many people are there enjoying. I'm sure they are. Next Tuesday, I think that's July 18, if I'm not mistaken, is the Savage Brothers Band will be there. And then the following week, which is July 25th, is a Billy Joel tribute band. That should be lots of fun. Let's see, does that bring us to the 4th, which is August 1?
Yeah.
And that's the Diamond Collection, a Neil Diamond tribute. And then the last, August 8th, will be the Great Hill Mountain Band.
That
which
are
is
going to
a
be at
local-
the
yeah,
fireworks.
They're
Okay.
very popular.
Going back, okay, and what I want to put up on the screen, any changes to the fireworks in the event there is, we want to put up the town park and rec hotline, okay, that people
that's a
can
good
check
idea.
in. The numbers on your screen are going to be on your screen very shortly, which is 860. Okay, 262-7234. So if there's any doubt, okay, if the fireworks are going to happen, and this is pertinent to any of the town events, whether the concert series is going to be postponed for that night due to rain or any of the park and rec activities, you can dial into that, and that is updated to accommodate the weather conditions and for whatever reason. So that's great. So again, the hotline is area code 860-262-7234. So cool. All right. So getting on to other initiatives, we have Elmcrest, I guess. What's happening there?
Well, I had an update on the what will be called Brainerd Place after the famous building that's on the site. I got an update from Dan Bertram, who is the developer, and he's indicated that he's hired a local architect, Alan McKittrick, who will be working with him on the redesign first of the Brainerd House, which is the central house right in the middle of the campus. And he's saying he's got some exciting plans for each of the rooms that are in there. It'll be an amenity building for the apartments that will be built. The first phase will have a little over 100 apartments of no more than 30% would be two-bedroom.
And 70%.
70%, that's right, would
One
be efficiencies and one-bedroom apartments. And he said they're looking at the potential of having a outdoor pool as well as some exercise rooms within the building itself. And he's very excited that it will be well done. I know that the nonprofit group that's going to be moving the Hart Jarvis House, which is another historic home on the campus, is busy working. They're going to be moving that to another portion of the campus and be renovating that for utilization for events and things of that nature. The third historic home is the Sage House, and that will be a commercial operation. Dan Bertrand further said he has an engineer that's doing all of the various engineering that needs to be done on the site, as well as a traffic review and a traffic study that has to be submitted and approved by DOT for safety and convenience of the site. And he's also talking to some major stores. And he said this week and next week in particular, he'll be talking with one big store that he hopes will come to the site.
That'd be great. And again, I think, to your credit, I think you've kept plugging at this. It's been a long road as far as many nights, many executive sessions,
Yeah, it's been a few.
and going back and forth, and for you to see this through to fruition and make this to actually happen. It's been a long road, and the town is well deserving of this initiative, and I think it's going to be a great thing, for the town, for the downtown. For me as a Main Street business owner, it's only going to enhance us as a further destination to attract, and it's going to be great for economic development too.
It's a very valuable site.
So
and,
it's it's got water, it's got sewer, and obviously the DOT study is going to be an integral part of making that all happen to go from there. But I think it's also going to be an opportunity for us on the town site to improve a lot of our infrastructure surrounding the properties to bring kind of up to date, aka our water system.
Right. Well, we started our conversation with how important our budgets are.
Sure.
And more and more cities and towns have to look to how they can sustain, how they can have good roads, have good public safety, be able to educate children, and raise revenue to do those things. Not just from homeowners. It's got to come from commercial operations. And this is a sizable amount of acres in the middle of our town that is going to be very valuable to us as we move forward.
And that you speak of sustainability, I am the Connecticut State Chairman for the American Waterworks Association for the Sustainability Committee, and Susan, you've been taking part in our committee activities, and those are as your role in CCM, and you were able to basically work with other entities, Cost and Connecticut Waterworks Association. We even enlisted Laurie Matthew, who is the head of the state water supply section for the Department of Public Health. And so we've got some neat initiatives going to be happening to help small water utilities and towns, making themselves more sustainable. And it's such a broad brush umbrella, from infrastructure to even succession planning. We're all getting older, and this is going to be a time when I retire, you retire, and so forth. So we have to have the bodies in place to be able to sustain the infrastructure
and be able to, as we were speaking earlier, have cities and towns share these resources. Not every town has to run its own water system or its own sewer system.
Sure.
But we do need to be able to have the cleanest water, as Laurie Matthew pointed out.
Absolutely.
Only Class A water sources, pure water for our children and ourselves to make sure that we can run our businesses, be healthy, and at the same time economical. And in order to share these resources is, I think, critical, and it's something that I'm looking at all the time for our town. And I know that with my work in the regional efforts, that many towns are facing this problem.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. It's infrastructure, not only in our town, but throughout the United States, okay, is
Yes.
is getting older. I mean, there are water systems that are well over 100 years old, and just because the pipes are out of sight and out of mind doesn't mean that they last longer. Okay, they break down just like bridges, and you have potholes in the roads and all of that kind of stuff. So we have to look at keeping that sustainable, and so we can look for the future and our kids and grandkids.
And
to
it's
make
also
that.
jobs.
Absolutely.
Redoing your infrastructure is something, every generation has to contribute. And I think it's very important that we look ahead and be able to say that we did our part in our generation for the
Sure.
next one.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, ladies, for coming on. I appreciate it, Sharon. And we're going to give it heck for the fireworks. And again, if you wish to make donations to the fireworks, you can donate to the Portland Police Department, which is, I think they're going to put it up on the screen, at 265 Main Street. Okay, and also for the Park and Rec hotline, there's the donations right there. And the Park and Rec hotline, which is 262-7234. So our Portland on the Move show airs the first Tuesday of every month, but because of the 4th of July holiday, we were postponed to this week. So tune in if you'd like to be on the show. Give me a call at the town hall. We'll be happy to work something out. And again, we air the first Tuesday of every month, live here at the Comcast studio at 199 Shunpike. So have a happy and safe summer. We'll see you at the fireworks display Saturday night, live in the Fairgrounds, Exchange Club Fairgrounds in Portland. So be safe, and we'll see you soon.